Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fuel Your Joy. I am so excited to have one of my dearest friends, colleague, Lesleigh Tolin, who has literally changed my life. I'm so grateful to have you today as we're talking about grief during the holidays. And Lesleigh, welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's such a joy to be with you again and to see you looking so bright and pink and happy.
Thank you so much. We just had a wonderful half hour together talking and just sharing about our past experiences. So, Lesleigh Tolin, for everyone listening, is an advanced grief recovery methods specialist out of Los Angeles. And I met Lesleigh 5 years ago during COVID. One of our dear friends and teacher, Patty Holsibus, who is my transcendental meditation teacher. And Lesleigh, I'm not sure how you met Patty. How did you meet Patty?
So about, gee, I can't even remember what date. It's probably like 5 years back or maybe more that TM, Transcendental Meditation, offered a weekend retreat to be held at Pepperdine. And we who attended slept in the dorms at Pepperdine in Malibu for the weekend. And Patty and her lovely husband, Marty, were teachers in that weekend. And I met them and we were instant friends, and that's how our connection began. And then
Wonderful.
Patty led me to you.
Yes, Patty introduced us. And, at that time, I was going through a very, very difficult heartbreak and had separated from my partner. And I was, besides transcendental meditation, Patty thought meeting you would be a wonderful fit on top of what I was already doing. And of course, she was right. Of course, teachers are always right. So I just want to share a little bit about the grief recovery method. And the grief recovery method has been around for 47 years, from what I was reading and from what you shared. It's an action based program, which is what attracted me because I love action based structure. And yep, Leslie's showing the book. And it really helps people. It helped me, just move beyond this loss, this grief, this heartbreak that I was feeling that I just couldn't get rid of. I was looking to do everything possible, exercising it out, detoxing, you name it. I was doing it. Nothing was helping. And it was just this carrying around this heavy heart. And when I made the phone call or actually emailed you, Leslie, it was again life changing. So I just want to share a little bit about you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and share with everybody here because we know right now it's a very difficult time for so many people with grief during the holidays. I know for me it is as well, losing my sister 2 years ago, Meredith. And just would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and then we can go from there.
It's been such a beautiful journey, Michelle. Thank you for that intro to arrive here, to be sharing information and educating others about what John James' incredible work is. And it's almost a decade for me, oh my goodness, that I have been a specialist, and about 7 years that I have been an advanced specialist. And my single regret in finding this work later in life is I only wish one thing were different, and that's that someone who knew my long life of loss would have brought me to John's work about 40 years ago. That would have been incredible. And guess what? We find it when we find it, and we celebrate finding something that works when we find it. And so, for me, as well as so many of my clients during the last 9 years, what has been said and what I say is I wish that somebody had found me earlier, that this is the last thing that I tried to heal myself from some of my own losses, and truly the first thing that worked. So, in being trained as a marriage and family therapist and choosing to work across country this last decade as a coach of grief and loss, what I love so much about John's work is that this is action based. And sometimes talking with someone who's a coach or a therapist of any kind can be healing for the moment. But what happened for me in my past many times is I would have a good, uplifting conversation, and then the next day that gloom and doom would come over me once again. But with John's
Mhm.
work, because it's action based, it is an educational program that has therapeutic effects. It is not therapy. And that difference was really amazing for me in the beginning and has been for my clients ever since.
I agree with you, Leslie. Thank you for that. I send that book out to so many people, and not only I have both on my desk, also for those listening that can't see the book, but we will send a link on even pet grief. I send this out for people who don't think we're going to have grief. Losing a spouse. It is, whether it's a pet or a spouse, it's grief, and I loved what you were saying that, and this is something that you wrote to me in an email back in 2020. And this was from you. You said, grief recovery with this method changed my life, my heart, and my ability to be vulnerable. The best was getting that being courageous enough to be vulnerable is the truest illustration of strength. And so when I read that and I first met you before I even started working with you back in 2020, it really took courage for me to sign up with you.
It did. Yes, it did. I
you
remember
know,
that consultation well.
yep. So I always say, even people I coach, it really takes courage for them to find out about my work and call me. And I know we don't take that lightly as practitioners
We
and what
don't.
it takes and to ask for help.
And so, if I may, Miss Michelle, when you said in introducing me that, yes, Miss Leslie and working together changed your life, what I would like to do for a moment is turn that around and say, yes, it's my honor to be a guide and to know this work as well as I know it today. However, it is your courage and your willingness to walk through the tears and heartache that was life changing for you. And it is 5 years later, it still chokes me up when I think about this for you because I know the courage that it took for you to find me and then begin to talk about it. And we had a humorous moment in the consult, and you may remember this because you were interviewing me to see how good this would be for your clients.
That's right. That's right. And I think you said, what about for you? And I said, let me get back to you.
Exactly.
I forgot about that. That's funny.
I remembered it well because it does take so much in this crazy, fast-paced Western culture of ours to look at what is important in looking into our heart. And so, for your listeners, whomever listens to this podcast, I would ask you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, listeners, what do you think in this very fast-paced Western culture of ours is the single most off-limits topic of conversation? What comes up for you in just listening to Michelle and me? Is it religion? Is it death? Is it divorce? Is it politics? What is it? Actually, it is what, Michelle? It's grief.
It,
It's
I
grief.
was gonna I was gonna say sex and bowel movements because I'm a health coach. but
And
but for
yes,
you,
those yes, those are sometimes very, very difficult for many people to address. However, in our fast-paced culture, where across our nation every day and every hour what we sell is Happy Meals from McDonald's. When we
Mhm,
have a loss and we're at work and somebody says, "How are you doing?" We say, "I'm fine." What does fine
mhm,
mean? In my world today, fine means two different things. It means feelings inside, never expressed. Or in the world of addiction recovery, in which I am so proud to make a difference, it means effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional, which is much more right on than the other.
yes. So as we're talking about this, can you share with us a little bit about your recovery, what you've gone through, just a little bit.
Oh my goodness. Yes, and we might need another podcast for all of
Yeah,
that.
we
So
could
I
just
will
say a
be
couple
brief.
things.
I
How
will
how
be
long have
brief.
you been in recovery?
Thank you. I began my recovery in my late 30s because I had an eating disorder, a binge eating disorder. My father, my late beloved father, David, ate, drank his feelings. He was a recovering alcoholic later in life who did recover and was a miracle later in life. And I, as his daughter, ate my feelings. And that developed a very disordered relationship with food for which I needed some very life-changing help. And so in my 20s, I was a international flight attendant. This is back in the 70s, and I charmed the San Francisco uniform department at Pan American World Airways to issue me four size uniforms. So that when I went out on a 15-day pattern internationally from San Francisco, because I'm petite, and if I gained 7 pounds, that's another dress size, I would have something to wear on the way back on a trip. That's how crazy my life was. From the outside, I looked so good, and from the inside, I was emotionally barren. So my recovery began with OA, and then I began with adult children of alcoholic parents, my father, and then Al-Anon, and also sex and love addiction, because
Mhm.
in my early years, I misplaced love with sex, and I needed to recover from that and just be choosing to be celibate for a long while. So I've had many years off and on in different 12-step programs. And the reason in part that this is so unique is John James, when he had the bone crushing loss of losing his son, was already 3 years in recovery with AA. And he would tell you, if he was on the video with us, he would say how 12 steps changed his life and how those 3 years with AA, when he then lost his boy, those 12 steps saved him because he had an action based program. And that's why the grief recovery method also is action based.
That's great, Leslie. I think I always say you're my twin, a few years older. We have so much in common. And I think one of the things for our listeners going back again is you and I have both been on a journey in our early 20s, even earlier, to ask for help, to search for help,
Yeah.
to be around other people that are going through things and looking for those people, whether it's in 12 steps or grief recovery method, whatever it is. And again, that takes courage. And that's something that I daily will say to people, reach out to somebody. And I know for most people, it's really hard to reach out to somebody, especially right now in during the holiday times. That people, I think there's this, and I want to ask you, there's this, trying to think of the word, but when someone hears you've had a loss, I know for me with my sister that it's a month later or 2 months later, it's not spoken about again. And it's been 2 years now, and how could I still be grieving? And just that the holidays are as normal this year for me, but they're not. And so what are some things that you can, with somebody dealing with grief right now, whether it's been a year or 5 years with somebody they've lost, what are some things that you could recommend for people listening that they can take some action steps today to feel better?
It's such a great question, Michelle. Thank you. I believe that reaching out is the first step. Always. We who are suffering from loss and grief, and those of us who are in any kind of a program for which we need some kind of recovery, we are the finest isolators on the planet. We know how better when we're in grief to shut the door, shut our phone, don't answer the doorbell, don't answer the home phone if we have one, don't answer texts or emails, just be alone with our misery. And the antidote to grieving every single time is what? It's connection, it's
Mhm.
community, and it's communication. And so when our heart is so hurting and we want not to talk to anyone in the world, to reach out to maybe one person with whom we feel safe is such a great way to begin. Just saying, hi, can you just listen and make that happen?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then I believe that during the holidays, many times we feel obligated when families call us to show up and be happy when we're not. And I think that it is very fair to be really in touch with our heart and to know if I go to Aunt Mary's for brunch or a holiday party, I'm going to make a bookend of time in my mindset from when I arrive and when I'm going to leave and
So
have that be okay.
how would they communicate that? So what
So
would you had mentioned something earlier.
So maybe they could even call Aunt Betty, I'm making it up, and say, hey, Aunt Betty, it's Leslie. Thanks for inviting me. I know I've been going through a tough time and I will be there. However, what I want you to know is I'm going to be there for probably an hour. And that's really what I have to offer right now. And she might complain and say, oh, but honey, Uncle Henry's coming and the cousins are coming and they want to see you and la 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 la. Guess what? This is me time. When I'm grieving, I need to protect my heart. And the people around whom we feel the safest are those people we want to be with.
Hmm.
A mentor to me is an actor who 5 years back won his best Tony, first Tony, for his part, Andre de Shields. I think we shared this before, Michelle, in
Hmm.
AGRMS in Hadestown in New York. And he stood up to receive his first Tony. And one of the things he said that I want to quote is he said, this is one of his three cardinal rules for his sustainability and his longevity. He said, stand up and visit with people whose eyes light up when they see you coming, period.
Mm.
And if they don't, if what that comes up for them about Michelle is, oh, Michelle, she's beautiful and she's slender and I feel horrible about myself and I don't want her to see me and la 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 la, all this craziness that goes in our head, guess what? We need to just take a breath and show up in a way that is right for us. And if being at a party for 45 minutes is the best we can do, then that's graciously the way we're going to say hello and bye.
Yes, and I think too, Leslie, as you're saying this for our audience, and I know for myself, and you've experienced this, that and it's still okay to show up and not feel great. It's still okay. It's okay to not. I know for me, I never really felt like I was in my body. Just I was there,
Yes.
I showed up just to do a new habit than to be alone and be by
Yes.
myself. And
Yes.
so I think people, I hear this a lot in my practice is that even myself, for me to say, I'm going to wait till I feel good to be around people.
Yes, because that might be a long time.
A long time.
A long time. That could be years at a
So,
time.
and people have said, how have you gotten through the grief of your sister? And I said, thank God for my practice. My clients have helped me get through it, because I'm showing up. I got to show up. And so to show up and just be real, it's been a very different connection with the last 15 years of my practice. Being with my clients over the last 2 years, knowing my sister passed away, and just being able to keep showing up, even if I'm uncomfortable. And so, as we're talking about this, I want to go back for a minute, just because we had talked about we can be here for 10 hours together.
We could be.
We love each other. So let's talk about, for me, I know during the program working with you and then continuing working the book, because I love the workbook, um, the Grief Recovery Handbook. So let's talk a little bit about STIRVs. I want everyone to hear about this because this was another big moment for me to learn about. Like you mentioned with food, I've always had food issues as bulimic as well when I was in college. And, I always went to food or workaholic or exercise. Those are my three things because I love all of it, all of them. And so let's talk a little bit. Tell everybody about STIRVs and what to look for and share what that is.
So thank you, Michelle. STIRBS is an acronym that John James made up. And the STERBS stands for short-term energy relieving behaviors, which across our nation we call, that is what we can call overworking, retail therapy, gambling, working too hard, working too long, drugs, alcohol, sex with the wrong person again and again, all that we engage in so that we don't feel our feelings. When we go on automatic pilot and we say, I just need to go to the casino for one night only, and boom, this person shows up in the casino who has a gambling issue and he's lost 500 grand. How often does this happen across our nation? It happens every day. And so finding out what we are doing that's a distraction for how we truly feel is sometimes requiring us to take a deep dive and to look in our heart and our life at our actions and see, what am I doing or being right now that's distracting me from really feeling what I'm walking through. And if I've just had a loss, but what I'm engaging in are 4 hours at the gym rather than just one, because I want to not feel my feelings of hurt and heartache, it's better to take a closer look at that and begin to realize that we have something that's out of our control and becomes an obsession so that we don't feel what really is going on beneath it.
Okay. And then let's say I say, okay, I realize I'm spending 4 hours at the gym. Now what? What do I do? What do I do about it? As I'm sure listeners are going, yeah, I do shopping. Yeah, I do sex, whatever, whatever. So
So
what would you,
the first step to any kind of change is what? Awareness. It's
Mhm.
awareness that we have an issue. And then the next step is to look in our heart with someone usually who's a coach or a best friend or someone who's going to call us on our stuff and not just go, oh yeah, whatever, Michelle. No, someone who loves you dearly is going to help you look at what the reality check is. And if the
Mhm.
reality check has been that you're disappearing from the friendship because you're 4 hours at the gym because your beloved sister passed and you don't want to deal with those feelings, that's something to take a moment and a deep breath or five and look at and say, do I want to handle this in a different way? And if I do, what are the ways in which I can? And this isn't always the answer because this is a very deep dive, like you know, and you
Mhm.
experience. And the courage to walk through this is immense. And
Mhm.
the what that's been so that has happened for me in the aftermath of working with so many clients about so many different types of loss, because you and I have talked about this too, that there are more than 40 types of loss we can experience in a lifetime. What do we
Name
do with that?
name three. What would be three losses for people besides just someone passing away? What would be one
They
or
might
two or three?
they might have a death, not in someone leaving the planet. They might have a death of a friendship, an estrangement. Think of, let me say this to listeners who are listening to Michelle and me have this conversation that's so important. Think about any person who's out of your life, who's been out of your life, listeners, and it's at least 5 years, and they've been out of your life by death, by divorce, by estrangement, by a breakup at work, a boss, a coworker, a whomever it is, and it's at least 5 years later. How many of you still have your heart hurting about this person? If you're home alone listening, raise your hand so you can see your hand be raised. And thank you for your honesty and keep your hand up, listeners.
Mhm.
If it's 10 years that you've been still hurting about this person, yeah, sometimes it can be that long. And if I'm in a group of colleagues or friends and family and I ask this question, I'll say, thank you for your transparency and keep your hand up if it's 15 or more years. And usually out of a crowd, a third of the people will raise their hands. So that there are myths that we have in our culture about loss. And one of them is just give it time, Michelle. You'll get over the loss of your sister. No,
Hmm.
it is not time that heals. What it is it's the action steps we take within time that heal us. And it isn't time passing, because if it were just time passing, when people mistakenly say that to us, oh, Michelle, just give it time. You broke up 5 years ago. I'm so sorry. You'll get over it. No, it's action steps.
Hmm.
Otherwise, why are our hands raised when I ask a simple question of
Yeah.
someone out of your life? But to answer your good question of what are some other losses, sometimes I'll work with women who have lost a child.
Hmm.
And when sometimes they've lost a child to cancer, or a precious 5-year-old boy who had an accident in an auto, or whatever it might be, what they have told me that other people have said to them is bone crushing, because sometimes we as humanity don't know what to say to someone. So if
Hmm.
I have a young mother who's lost a 5-year-old and she has two other children, and she comes to me telling me in consultation that other people have said to her, oh, Betsy, it's okay. Thank God you have two other children. And her heart is shattered about this loss that just happened a month ago. How does she deal with that? People sometimes don't know what to say to us.
Sure. And I think that's where this book has been helpful, the grief recovery handbook, because I like to hand this out even during the holidays to people. For people that even have never, my assistant the other day said, I've never, as we were preparing for this talk with you, interview, she's never been through any losses. And so for someone who hasn't been through loss like this, it's great for someone to read the handbook to know how to work with someone like me who's lost somebody
Yes, or what to say,
or
or
what to say.
what to
Yes.
say. And sometimes what I'll ask in a crowd as well is I'll say, how many of you, please hold up your hand, have ever had any kind of a loss, whether it's a death, a divorce, it's someone that you have an estrangement with, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whomever, and somebody you thought would be there for you instead has ghosted you, and hands are
Mhm.
raised. And then I will say, it isn't that they don't care and they don't love you, or they don't care deeply. They don't know what to say. And what
Yeah.
comes up for them in not knowing what to say is shame in not knowing what to say. And so
Hmm.
rather than come to you and say, you know what, Michelle, I heard what happened with your sister. I don't even have the words, honey. I don't know what to say to you, but I want you to know I love you and I'm here. And anytime you need me 24/7, please call me. That's what there is to say. But because
Yes.
people feel uncomfortable saying, I don't know what to do or say, they say nothing instead sometimes.
Yes. And, something you taught me, I do this with my 97-year-old grandma, Doris. And I
Same
call her
birthday.
yeah, same birthday, Gemini like you. Um, I call her every day, my grandmother.
Beautiful.
And something that you taught me is every time I go to see her, a couple times a month, I will say to her, let's talk about Papa. They were married, 70 years, and no one brings it up. And I constantly bring it up. I remember you saying that the more that you share about your loss with people still, whether it's been 5 years, 50 years, and talk about it with people that that have had a loss, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling. Her face lights up
Exactly.
that I'm bringing it up and not mentioning him,
And not
and what
shying away. Yes.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's been very helpful.
Yes.
So I know we're coming up. We didn't even read. We we haven't covered anything. But another time, I would like to go a little bit into the relationship graph, the loss history graph. These were things, again, that are in the handbook, but working with you that were wonderful activities for, especially the loss history graph, for people to do the exercise that are listening in this book of being able to see just how much loss we have all had in our life, even if we think we haven't, the littlest things. And that was a wonderful activity, to do. But I want to thank you. And for all of our listeners, and I'll, Leslie, let you say something. I just want to say that um, Leslie and I both have been through a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and that's why we do what we do. And in our profession, being there to support others from the experiences we've gone through personally. And I just want to say to all the listeners, whoever's in pain, going through grief, that it's okay. And something that you said, Leslie, about really getting in communication with one person in your life to say, I'm not okay. Can you just listen? I want to share and I want to cry.
Exactly. I would like to invite the listeners, if anyone is interested in a deeper dive, on my website, which is simple, lesleighjtolin.com. There are downloadable some excellent information for you to have just to pro bono read more about grief and loss, and to know that if you have any interest for a deeper dive into the 7-week educational program that I teach, please connect with me to have a pro bono half hour just to hear more about it as it would apply to you and your circumstance very personally. It would be my honor.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, everyone, for listening in. And stay tuned for another Fuel Your Joy podcast next month. And wish everyone a wonderful, beautiful, happy holiday and heartfelt new year. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.